All right. It is 9 o'clock on April 2nd. We'll call the Wright County Board of Commissioners to order. We'll begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Good morning, everyone. On the cloudy Tuesday morning. We'll begin with this dispensing of the March 26th minutes. Anybody have any corrections or modifications?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
I'll second
I
that.
have a motion by Commissioner Dahlheide and a second by Commissioner Hewsom. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Minutes are approved. Moving on, the agenda today. Anybody have any additions or modifications to the agenda?
There's always one in the crowd.
No real modifications, but the public hearing we're having on April 10th at 1:30 for County Ditch number 10, dealing with the repair report or the Brosey Pond, is actually going to be held at the Highway Department in break rooms A, B, and C. So I just wanted to forewarn you about that.
Public hearing on April 10th is at Highway
At 1:30.
at 1:30.
Say, Matt, I had ditch 10, 130 today.
Yep, we have one for the viewers report today.
I thought you were trying to, I've been telling everybody there's a meeting.
Yeah, there's one today and then on the 10th at the same time too. So, both dealing with County Ditch 10.
This afternoon is ditch 29, isn't it?
No, they're both ditch 10.
Ditch 10.
Both
Yep.
ditch 10,
Yep.
okay.
One is the viewers report and one is ISG report.
Yep.
Okay, got it. All right.
Okay, thank you. So with that, I'll look for a motion to approve today's agenda.
So moved.
We have a motion by Commissioner Potter,
I'll second that.
second by Commissioner Hewsom. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Today's agenda is approved. We'll move on to the consent agenda. Would anybody like to remove anything from the consent agenda today?
I'll make a motion to approve consent agenda.
Second.
I have a motion by Commissioner Dahlheide and a second by Commissioner Potter to approve today's consent agenda. Any other further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Consent agenda is approved. Moving on to timed item number 1 at 9:03, 1 minute behind. Auditor Treasurer Bob Hevola.
Hey, good morning, Board. Hey, just adding to Matt's announcement, we did notify the landowners of the proper location, so this is just to notify you guys.
Okay, good.
All right, first item on the agenda is to approve a repurchase agreement. Board, if you remember, I brought before you the list of private sale properties and the conditions of those properties. One of the conditions was that if the landowner were to come back and repurchase, we would pull it from the private sale. We have that. We have one of our properties that a landowner came in and said that he would like to repurchase this. This is up in Otsego. All the properties. So the gentleman came in, we have the amount of the delinquent taxes and all the proper fees to get it back from the state of Minnesota. So I'm asking you to approve the repurchase of the parcel outlined in blue.
Mr. Chair? Bob, can we, as part of the repurchase agreement, make them tie those two properties together? Is there any reason why we can't?
I'll look at Brian.
Under one PID number,
Yeah. I mean, that's,
Looks like it
I mean,
almost-
that's the reason why these things happen, I think.
Correct,
Right.
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Delighten. These were, I think, all outlots for whatever reason, something during the platting process. And it somehow got separated from the main parcel, the larger parcel that this individual owns. I don't know that we can require it. I mean, we could have if we had set that as a condition of the sale, but we'll encourage him to do so. And I think he'd like to do so because he was kind of taken aback by the fact that he no longer owned this. So it's just a matter of filling out a form and combining it all into probably this parcel ID number, so.
Yeah.
Can we do some requirements in the future for these repurchase agreements? Can we change our statute or whatever the requirements are?
We can
so
try,
that
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Delyden, we can try and keep that in mind. It's, in most situations, it makes a heck of a lot of sense.
Yeah, I know there's occasionally you can't because of the way it was originally plotted in two different things or something, but.
But where we can, we'll add that to our.
Yeah, I was just wondering if there's a way to make sure that they want to repurchase it, they got to tie it into their existing one. Eliminate this from happening in the future.
Mr. Sheriff, Bob, so are the other outlots already included in the other properties then, or?
Commissioner, Chair, Commissioner Houston, I didn't look into that, but I'm
Okay,
assuming they're still existing as separate parcels.
Okay, yeah, I see that line by all of them, so that seems like a lot of little outlots that are.
Bob, did you think that they might have been planning like for a walking path or a trail or something at one time?
It was labeled as an outlot. Do we know what the outlot was? No idea. Sorry,
But
Commissioner.
I mean, like Mr. Houston just said, it looks like it was purposefully done. But whatever. It's not anymore.
Yeah.
Board, I'm asking you to adopt this resolution.
I'll make a motion to approve the resolution for
Second.
repurchase.
Second.
All right, we have a motion by Commissioner Dollard and a second by Commissioner Burrell on this resolution for repurchase. This is a resolution, so Commissioner Dollard?
Aye.
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 Aye. Resolution passes.
Thank you, Board.
Bob?
All right. Chief Deputy Matt Schreikler. Thank you, Chief.
So asking for the board to accept a resolution of restricted donations to the Mounted Patrol. Essentially, the Mounted Patrol is their own entity, and they're being brought under the umbrella of the Sheriff's Office. And as part of that, they close up their accounts, so that all of their monies they'd already raised through donations is being donated to the Sheriff's Office for the purpose of the Mounted Patrol.
So, looking for the exception of a donation of $9,800 into the Sheriff's Department for the Mounted Patrol. I'll look for a motion to.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion by Commissioner Potter, a second by Commissioner Dahleiden. Any further discussion on this resolution?
Yeah, Chief Deputy Schreikler, how is this going to change the way that they're operating, or how does that, bringing them under the umbrella of the Sheriff's Office, what's that going to look like compared to what it looked like before?
Essentially, it puts them in the category that our reserves are currently in.
Okay.
Prior, they did all of their own fundraising. Our volunteers didn't spend much time volunteering. They spent most of their time trying to run their own organization, where now our volunteers can actually be volunteers. So we will handle their finances, kind of handle the management, kind of the oversight of their group.
Assuming this puts them under our insurance then through MCIT versus before they were probably kind of more semi-quasi-independent?
Correct.
But there's no budget impact?
No
doing this?
budgetary impact for us, no.
Okay, so with that, we have a motion, we have a second, any other further discussion? With that, it's a resolution. Commissioner Potter?
Aye.
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 Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Resolution passes. 9:06, Virgil Hess, not nearly as long as it was last week.
Good morning, Chairman Vetch and Board of Commissioners. I have 3 items today for your consideration. The first one is to approve a concurring resolution for the City of St. Michael to place the municipal state aid system designation on a portion of County Road 119 in St. Michael. For some background, last year we did the same thing with St. Michael from Highway 35 to Jameson, and now they'd like to extend that from Jameson to another mile to the west. And County Road 119 is eventually going to be jurisdictional change to the city of St. Michael. And this allows the city to acquire state aid funds based on the needs formula. And they're allowed to do this on a county road. If it was a county state aid highway, they wouldn't be able to do this. So I'm requesting approval of this resolution.
I'll make a motion to approve the resolution.
I'll second that.
I have a motion by Commissioner Deloitte and a second by Commissioner Houston for the resolution regarding County Road 119. Any further discussion?
Mr. Chair, Virgil, educate me a little bit. MSAS, is that municipal
It's municipal state aid system.
state aid?
It's similar to our county state aid system, and it's for cities over 5,000 population.
Oh, got it. Okay. All right, that's all I had.
Okay, with that, any other further discussion? Hearing none. Commissioner Houston?
Aye.
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 How come I didn't get to go first?
We haven't got that far yet. Resolution passes.
Maybe next time. Huh?
Now will be for approve a resolution of the final acceptance of contract number 1801.
Yes, this was an approved final payment to Knife River in the amount of $820. And this contract included the paving of Highway 3 from Highway 55 to Casad 2, and then paving the shoulders with a safety grant we got for the same project. The final value of the work was $543,056.69, and part of it was paid for with regular state aid funds and part with safety grant funds.
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion authorizing the final payment of
Second.
$820.
Second.
All right, we have a motion by Commissioner Husum, a second by Commissioner Burrell for the approval of acceptance contract 1801. Any further discussion? Hearing none, this is a resolution. Commissioner Burrell?
Aye.
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 Here you go.
Resolution passes.
He's
Last-
happy now. Commissioner, bet you put a smile on Commissioner Burrow's face.
I try every day for
Good
that.
day. That's good.
Approved resolution for final acceptance of contract 1810.
Yeah, this one was a pedestrian bike trail along our Highway 12 with some transportation alternative funding for the Parks Department, and approving final payment. And the final value of the work was $447,702.30, and with a combination of grant funds and park funding.
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
And Virgil, that was I know you did a lot more, but that was part of an area where the trail kept getting washed out on a heavy rain, and this is going to take care of it, hopefully?
Correct. Yeah, this was a gravel trail and before, and this was to pave it. So it's all paved now, so that should take care of that problem.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Do we end up paying taxes on this, on these type of properties or repairs?
Well, yeah, this was a contract that we got, so we put it out for bids.
Yeah,
and
I was just curious if,
pay the contract.
because you know, with the buildings, we're able to get tax exempt for the equipment and stuff, or for
Materials.
Yeah, we just
supplies, so I'm just kind of curious if,
pay the bid prices, whatever's bid with the low bidder. So there's no taxes, and if they purchase materials in their bid, they're paying taxes on something likely, but
Yeah.
low bid process, so we.
I know, I'm just kind of curious though, if part of that, if there's taxes and if there's a way of getting out of that. And I know in the legislators are working on something like that too.
Yeah, Monticello's
streamline
got
that
one, yeah.
taxes.
There's a few of them trying to streamline it, but as of now, it's all piecemeal.
Any other further discussions?
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to approve the resolution for the authorizing the final payment.
We have a motion by Commissioner Potter, a second by Commissioner Dahlheiden for contract 1810. This is a resolution. Commissioner Potter?
Aye.
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 Resolution passes.
Mr. Chair, one last note on this one. This is the trail which Park Director Matthijs did not put applications in for years. He said he'll never get it. This is one of those, I told him to put it in, and through the magic of talking to people and that, we managed to get something that normally would not get paved there. You throw it in the hopper, see what happens, because that's the worst thing they do is say no.
Yeah, it's always good to apply for the grants, and I know this one, I think it went through a couple tries, and eventually it got funded. So it's always good to have a project in there.
I just wanted to rub that into Mark a little bit, because they kind of pushed him into apply for this one. Push it, apply it.
Well, hopefully he's watching.
No, because now that the trail is paved, my opinion is going to get used a lot more. Because every time I drove that road, people were using the county road because the trail wasn't paved. And I know with the Parks Department, every time it rained, it was 2 people, 4 hours to go from end to end to shore it up and fix it up back. That's a lot of man hours spent on shaping that back up.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Virgil.
All right. Item D, 908, Olga Strobel, the introduction of IT Business Solution Manager.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, Board of Commissioners. I'd like to introduce you this morning David Angel, our new staff member. He joined us on Monday, March 25th as an IT developer full-time. He brings his education in computer science and almost a decade worth of software development experience.
Nice.
Well, obviously, this name with Angel in it,
It's clear.
you're definitely a godsend to this county.
Well, welcome aboard.
Welcome aboard.
Yeah, so where are you from?
Rockford.
Oh, okay. So your commute has changed considerably then?
Yes. Nice traffic-free drive.
Yeah.
Move forward.
Yeah, hopefully you'll be able to solve a lot of the problems that Olga's been having.
Not that he's putting all the weight of the world on his shoulders, but he is.
Yeah. And I'm not talking about, well, never mind.
We're very happy to have you aboard. Welcome.
Thank you.
Well, welcome to working for the Wright County. You finally have the right job.
Thank you.
Thank you. Welcome.
Thanks for bringing him, Olga.
Okay. Well, we've zipped through the timed items on the agenda. We'll move on to items for consideration. This is moving along quite swiftly. Administrator Kelly is going to cover the March 19th Committee of the Whole.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chair. As mentioned, Committee of the Whole was held on the 19th, and we were discussing the status of the design of the Government Center and other things related to buildings. The first thing, BKV had asked their architecture development group to put together some potential concepts of what could be done at the current location we're at right now in redevelopment. So they presented a few different concepts, A, B, and C, with a few different housing units. I believe those diagrams in PowerPoint are included with the minutes here in the packets. The overriding piece out of that, of course, City of Buffalo will be a key player in whatever redevelopment will have to take place, and some discussion has started already with them regarding that. Second item, Pete Philippi from Integrity presented the design development cost estimate, talked about a few of the items that have been adjusted as we move forward in the design plan, talking about some of the material costs that have changed due to some design changes, compared that against the schematic design estimate, which is included in the packet. Talked a little bit about some the level 3 being part of the base bid of the project. So the underground parking area being discussed, and we'll have further discussion on that later in the meeting. Talked a little bit about the further with the estimate and some of the earthwork decisions that will have to be made based on designs that were originally made for the Justice Center if you're continuing forward. So there are a few topics regarding the construction documents that BKV needed guidance on. We had some robust discussion on the fleet parking, both the motor vehicle fleet being parked on level 0 of the Government Center, and some discussion about external parking in a covered shelter on the south side of the building. Talked through kind of the pros and cons of both of those scenarios. Ultimately, it ended up as alternates. So if we were to do a fleet parking at level 0 of the Government Center would be one alternate, and the external parking would also be an alternate bid. Talked briefly about the property that was recently acquired east of the courthouse. We don't have any specific plans at this time, but are planning to do some electrical conduit stubs to that
as well. Talked about the scope of the design of the cafe and the entrance area of the proposed government center, as well as moving the locker rooms from level 3 down to level 0. And a little additional discussion about the logistics of revising the contracts for the dirt work out on the site for moving forward, and talked about the review schedule. In April, we'll do a few more workshops, which will mostly be with facilities, kind of refining some of the final design things, looking for bids to be released at the end of May in the current timeline. So, Mr. Chair, summary of the minutes.
Thank you. I'll look for a motion to accept the minutes from the March 19th Committee of the Whole.
So second.
I have a motion by Commissioner Dowlight, second by Commissioner Potter. Any further discussion?
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
At the, last week at that Mayor's Association meeting, the city of Buffalo seemed pretty excited about that concept drawing that was out there. I mean, I've had talks with them before about redevelopment of it. This does fit in their plans, and they were kind of excited. And I thank you for bringing that along, because that's what they're asking for a copy of that, to see what was being thought about in here. And it, like I say, I was not surprised, but I was encouraged by the reception it got for, this is nice, we'd like to see this.
You mean at the Mayor's Association meeting?
A lot of good discussion there.
Yeah,
That was good.
there was a lot of good discussion.
All right, so we had the motion in a second. Any other further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. The minutes from the March 19th, our Committee of the Whole, are approved. Owners Committee, is it Commissioner Burrell or Commissioner Potter that's going to do it? Okay.
Mike can help out if he wants there too. But anyway, Mr. Chair, we met on last Thursday, March 20th. Commissioner Potter and I were both there, along with a lot of the interested parties in the facility. Things are going up pretty good there. They should have put the air handlers in last Thursday. That's when they were scheduled to lift them up into place. And these things are humongous. I mean, they're like 40 feet long and whatever. So it's a large crane that put them in. So it would have been a nice sight to see. The building overall we're running a little bit behind schedule because they're with some weather delays has been, from last fall, and then they're hoping to get caught up right now. On level 2, they're approximately 80% framed with the mechanical installation underway, and not a lot of work has been done on level 3 yet because of the lack of the roof, but once that goes up, they think they're really gonna put it into high gear and get a lot done. The other thing, it was good news on the contingency fund. There's not been a lot of major change orders. I mean, everything's fallen into place pretty well. So if they extrapolate out at the rate that we're using the contingency fund up, we would be left over with about $1.3 million. So hopefully that stays on course. And yeah, I say total cost of change orders right now is only $10,500 roughly. Another thing we talked about was a backup generator. We looked at we never really made a decision, but talking about putting a generator for this building and the Justice Center and connecting up a future building to see if it would, size that way, or maybe even just because the one at the Sheriff's Department, they're checking into it, but they felt it's big enough to actually handle all 3 buildings in an emergency situation. But there's an advantage, Alan pointed out, I do believe, was if you did have another generator and you could back, if the sheriff one ever went out, you would have a backup that way. So it's all stuff, and I don't know, Alan, we left you in charge kind of to come up with the best scenario there, so.
Yeah, we've got a follow-up to that here in a little bit when we're done with minutes.
Okay, so we'll get a little bit more info on that later. And then another thing that was talked about was the cell phone coverage in a building. I think it was Commissioner Potter brought it up that Sherburne, when they did theirs, they got real poor cell phone coverage and in parts of the building. So we're going to put extenders in right off the bat, so you'll get real good cell phone service all around. That seems to be an important thing. So anyway, that is about all I had, unless Commissioner Potter had some more insight?
Just, Mr. Chair.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and Commissioner Burrell. The The request for number 23 for 10,478 is the recommendation in there. And because that was over that $10,000 threshold, it's just barely over, but it's over.
That's right, and so when we approve the minutes today, that would be approving that recommendation for that change order number 23.
Just to let the rest of the commissioners know we're following the rules.
Yeah.
Even though it's only $400, it's still $400.
I'm glad you brought that up. I did forget about that, so. Okay, and anyway, with that, Mr. Chair, I'll move forth the minutes and the recommendation to allow that change order for over $10,000.
Second.
All right, we have a motion by Commissioner Burrell, a second by Commissioner Potter. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Minutes and recommendations from March 20th Owners Committee are approved.
And Mr. Chair, just to follow up on the point that Alan mentioned, there was some further discussion and a meeting was held between all the parties regarding the generator out on that site. We were able to get confirmation that that generator that's currently in place would have enough capacity to add the additional facilities all on one generator. So we've put together some quotes too regarding the conduits that would be needed to be run and stubbed out to the different locations. It'd probably be good to address those today if we could. Alan can probably speak in more detail than I can to it if there are questions on it, but following up on Charlie's point, the generator is able to be.
We'll take up it now, we might as well since we're already on the topic.
Yeah, I just thought it'd be timely.
Morning, Commissioners. So yeah, just to follow up to that, at the request to meet and work through some of the generator concerns, met with Ziegler as well as BKV, Design Architect, Contegrity Group, and then our Facilities Group, identified that their calculations are within the threshold of what the generator has capacity for at 100% for all three buildings. There was some question about the redundancy factor that you mentioned, and if a second generator would back into the Justice Center. But we can accomplish that by putting in a temporary, a portable generator hookup into our existing generator. Basically, they bring in a truck and hook in a generator on a semi-truck essentially to feed if we have a major issue with a generator for the jail.
And Mr. Chair, thank you, Alan. That was a good point. And the other thing where that we would have continual savings because there's maintenance on these generators. Even though they're not used, they have to come out and it's quite expensive every year.
It's about 13 grand a year that we spend for
maintenance. So if we can eliminate that and then make it so you can bring in a portable generator, if there ever was a problem with the one, which is unlikely anyway.
Exactly. The risk is that we have one generator feeding all three facilities, right? So if it goes down, we have three facilities that are down. The backup redundancy is to put in a plug port, basically bring in a truck, hooks up into the generator and feeds all three buildings temporarily until you fix the generator that has an issue.
I like it.
So we met, we verified, everybody's in agreement that everything is adequate, it's sufficient, it's good, that we would propose moving forward with that plan. Kind of the second piece of the proposal would be to stub out the conduits that I think everybody's aware of already. Potentially the parcel that was purchased to the east. We don't know exactly what's going to happen with that, but stubbing a couple of conduits out to the east side of the property before it's paved in case that becomes additional parking or a service road or something for lighting or signage or whatever might need to be out there. The conduit for the generator and the additional boring underneath the law enforcement center. We're doing one to connect the Justice Center right now, but a secondary boring would happen at the same time because of the size of the conduit that needs to go in. There's a second boring. So that's also included. And then all of the parking lot lights in the main west parking lot would be fed from one source rather than split between two projects. So we're stubbing out those conduits for those utilities to the west all at the same time so that they're all fed from the Justice Center, one source, one control source, one failure point. If something happens, we know exactly where to go with it in the future so we're not running between buildings for zones. So the cost for all of that work is $67,162.24. So I guess I would try to piggyback this proposal so we can get that underground work done for the conduit, which would keep the project going on level 0 so we can get the concrete poured. They need to do this work underground underneath level 0 in the facility. Would like to get it done here over the next week and a half so we can get concrete poured. happy to answer any questions anybody has. I don't think anything
Alan,
surprising on it.
We would need a motion.
We budgeted for another generator for the Justice Center in this bidding process, correct?
Second generator
Yeah.
in the Justice Center? No.
Yeah, no, we didn't.
No.
Okay, so we were in, okay.
The initial boring to connect the Justice Center is in the mechanicals agreement. This
So the
is for the second
67,000
boring
is
for the
in the,
government center.
so the 67,000 was budgeted.
No, it's an additional.
It's an
part of the
additional.
It's
contingency.
additional.
Okay.
Correct. So this is to stub out additional
For
for the
government.
changes
Okay.
that we've added, the additional east lot, the government center generator connection, and the changes to the west parking lot.
Okay,
So this is over and above what was there normally.
Above there, okay.
And Mr. Chair.
yep.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And Alan, and thank you for getting numbers back to us quickly, because I know time is of the essence for pouring this before they pour the concrete, you know, because we don't want that to get behind too, because, and thanks for the answer. And I think we're far better to put this in there, even if it didn't get used, versus not putting it in and try to deal with it later, because the boring now is a lot less than if we wait until after the concrete's poured, then we got a bigger problem. And with that, Mr. Chair, I'd make a motion to approve this, what we refer to as change order, to add the conduit to supply the generator voltage or whatever to not only potential future government center, but also to the lot to the east, commonly referred to as the Bremer property.
I'll second that.
All right, we have a motion by Commissioner Potter, a second by Commissioner Burrell. Any further discussion?
Did we vote on the minutes already?
Yes, we did.
Okay, good.
Yep. All right, hearing no other discussion, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. The allocation of 67,000 is approved.
Mr. Chair, as long as Alan's up there, you guys are talking about redundancy for generators. The generator from this building, which almost looks like we're going to be moving forward with the building out there. How big is the generator down here, and would that be capable of kind of helping out?
I don't know the specific size of it. It would not carry 100% for sure, because it doesn't carry 100% here.
Oh, it doesn't?
No, nope, it's life safety. So it wouldn't have the capacity to do that. Could it be used in some capacity? Possibly.
So it's just life-saving, so it's just emergency exits and us?
Emergency exit lights, fire pump, sprinkler system, emergency fire panels, that kind of stuff.
We're out there, that one's capable of maintaining, will be
100%.
all three buildings?
Yep, 100%, all three.
The power plant.
Nice.
That's what we had them check out. Before we move forward, we want to verify that, because we were told it more than likely can, but just verify, yes, it can.
It's just interesting that 10 years ago, they put in a big enough generator to take care of the future.
Part of that, Commissioner,
Yeah.
is the load has reduced with LED lighting controls, kind of the efficiency of devices running. The convenience power has really shrank a lot in the most recent years. Most of your load is on mechanicals, and that takes most of your power. The rest of the stuff is really reduced significantly. So you think about 10 years ago, and the voltage that was taken off a property before, it's really changed a lot in the last 10 years. So you know, we're trusting BKV's engineers that they're calculating the load correctly and the load coming from a building. So if their stuff is all good, we're in good shape. If not, we'll talk to BKV at that time, I guess. So.
Great, thank you,
All
Alan.
right, thank you, Board.
Thank you.
All right, now we'll move on to the Personnel Employee Relations meeting from March 27th. Christine, Commissioner Newsom?
I can take that. Personnel Employee Relations Committee met on March 27th. Members present, Delighten Newsom, Sean Johnson, Derringer Treichler, Lori Pollock, and Lee Kelly. And the first item was the school resource officer staffing level. Sheriff Derringer came and tell us that St. Michael Albertville School District has requested an additional school resource officer for the high school. They currently have one assigned to the school. And they are also contacted by the Buffalo School District about the possibility of providing for 2 SROs in the school district this coming year. And Derringer stated that he strongly believes the SRO positions are very important. They have a positive impact on the schools and the community, and also, you know, allows them to deal with potential threats and safety concerns. And I was questioning how the additional SRO personnel costs would be covered in the annual budget. And in the formula has been used in the past. They charge the school districts for 9 months of the deputies' wages, which typically is from $38,000 to $42,000 per year. And then the SROs are assigned for covering different shifts, usually in vacations and that kind of thing during the summer months. And John Johnson mentioned that the projected personnel cost does not include the fringe benefits and other tangible costs like health insurance and uniform allowance, etc. And Sheriff Geringer added that they don't have the additional staff members that are trained as SROs, so if an SRO is out, they have trouble covering those positions. And so that's an added challenge. These positions require completion of a week-long certification program through the state of Minnesota. The training needs to be done prior to the beginning of the school year. And Derringer added that if additional SROs were approved by the county board, the sheriff's office would have to post for these positions in May to have them filled by mid-August. So I had mentioned that because this impacts the budget, this would have to be brought to a committee of the whole because it was more than just the personnel committee could handle. So the recommendation is to refer the request and add additional resource officers to the committee of the whole. The second item was the Sheriff's Wellness Program initiative. Sheriff Derringer explained that initiating a wellness program is a very important issue for him during the election campaign, that 2018 was the second year in a row that law enforcement suicide rate for deputies exceeded the number of on-duty law enforcement deaths. Although staff are required to be deemed physically and mentally fit from duty when they are hired, he commented that after years of being in the line of duty or being exposed to various issues they're involved with, that he'd like to implement a wellness program that promotes the benefits of staying in good physical shape, promoting good mental health, and the importance of civil and civic engagement. The goal would be to increase staff participation in the wellness program for the sheriff's office and possibly use some county resource to provide an incentive to the employees that participate. He's been given the task to the sheriff's office engagement committee to come up with some potential wellness related initiatives that would be of interest to the entire department. So Human Resources Sean Johnson agreed about the concept and would like to continue working with the Sheriff's Office and labor attorneys on developing a draft wellness program that may be proposed and to the affected collective bargaining groups during contract negotiations. He continued that this recommendation should be referred to union negotiations, and we agreed. The recommendation is to refer the Sheriff Wellness Program initiative to the negotiation committee. With that, Mr. Chair, I will move the minutes and the recommendations.
All right.
Second.
We have a motion by Commissioner Hewson, a second by Commissioner Dahlett, and is there any discussion on these items?
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
We were kind of waiting to hear from Buffalo. Have we heard yet at all?
No, I don't.
Okay. No. Buffalo is currently being done by the city of Buffalo. And the reason the school district came to the county is because the city is charging the school districts a lot more than the county's been charging school districts, which is one of the things that brought up that we need to look at what we're charging school districts, because we're not actually anywhere near our costs. Right now, it's starting out, they use a starting deputy salary, and we do not have any starting deputies as an SRO officer. So I think as part of the committee of the whole, and I would recommend that we wait until we hear from the city of Buffalo before we have that committee, so we know if we need to hire 1, 2, 3, 10, 30, or whatever. But we have a discussion regarding our costs, and that we really can't do much this year, but at least we can start a plan for the future.
And Mr. Chair, I mean, we still could have, even if we hadn't heard from other school districts, because there are other school districts that might be interested in this, but to have a discussion of really what we need to charge.
Captain.
Yeah, respectfully, I think we need the committee a whole one way or the other, whether Buffalo decides to come on board or not. If it is the intention of the county board of looking at that funding formula, we should probably start that process now so that we know what, depending on how the funding formula turns out, may make a difference whether or not a city is going to ask for
In the school
SRO.
district.
Yeah.
So the sheriff's office is currently having some discussions on what we think is appropriate, what the base level of service to the whole county, whether you're in a city or not. So we've got some ideas we'd like to present to the county board before Buffalo makes that decision.
Time schedule wise, you thinking you want to do this sometime in the next couple of weeks? Is that kind of what you're envisioning?
Yeah, we might be jumping ahead a little bit, but there's.
It's a timed item, but I was just curious.
Yeah, we're hoping in the next 2 weeks. I know there's one date that the sheriff was not able to make. I believe that's on the 16th, but other than that, in the next couple of weeks, we'd be able to come to a meeting and discuss
I
this.
think since I have you at the podium, maybe we should just discuss it and planning it now, if that's all right with you, Administrator.
That makes sense.
Item B.
All right, item B, yep. Everybody grab your calendars. Oh, we're gonna need your input, don't you? Are you representing the sheriff's calendar, or is Chief?
You want it's the 16th you can't make, so.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, why don't we vote the minutes quick and just get that wrapped up,
Okay.
and then we'll do that.
Any other
Sorry
discussion
about
on the
that.
minutes? We have a motion and we have a second. Did you catch those?
Yes.
Okay, all
we
in
have
favor,
those.
say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
All right,
Okay.
thank you.
Now we'll look at scheduling this committee of the whole before we do the IT minutes. What was the envisionment for it? Did the sheriff have
Any day except for the 16th.
any day except for the 16th?
And Mr. Chair, the week of the 16th, that's a pretty full week for me.
So are you thinking you want to go,
We could do,
you want to do it, are you thinking like the 10th, 11th, 12th, or are you thinking,
we have committee day on the 10th and County Dish 10, but in the morning of the 11th, I'm
the
available.
11th is good for me.
I have a dentist appointment at 11 o'clock on the 11th.
Could you do it at 9?
Yeah, I could.
Would that be good?
Well, he said your appointment is when, Mark?
11.
Well, that wouldn't leave very much time for the meeting.
An hour. I
Well,
mean,
hour and a half.
hour and you can still
Then
make.
drive
Hour and a half?
back to,
Say Michael's.
I mean, I can't imagine we can't get this done in an hour.
I would
Hour
guess
and a
so.
half.
okay,
And you don't need me to finish.
Okay, so April 11th.
9 o'clock.
Well,
Mr. Chair?
Commissioner Burrell, if Commissioner Delighten can't get his point across in an hour and a half before he's got to go, then
Yeah.
he's got bigger issues than just the.
I agree.
So committee of the whole on the SRO at 9 o'clock on April 11th.
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to set that meeting on April 11th at
Second.
9 a.m.
Second.
11th at 9. All right, we have a motion and we have a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor, say aye. Opposed, same sign? Okay. We have that. Perfect, all right. Now we will go to the technology minutes for March 27th as well. Commissioner Dahl,
What?
whenever you, oh, IT minutes.
IT, the Technology Committee met on the 27th. Number of people present. There was 4 discussion items. ERP, Enterprise Resource Planning. We had an update. It was information only. A committee of the whole will be called once the final pricing, which is what they're doing right now, negotiating, to find out exactly what we're going to be using, and time frame and all that sort of stuff, trying to get all the ideas on how it's all going to get implemented and everything, with Oracle, which is the company that was chosen by the group. So the way it looked, the initial was the cost of the ERP was $2.7 million with $340,000 ongoing maintenance. And that, from my understanding, that 2.7 was for actually a 3-year time frame.
Yes.
So it wasn't, and that the way it sounded, it's not all required up at one time either, so. Excuse me.
And, excuse me, but it's 340 included in the 2.7 or not?
Yeah,
Yep.
for the first.
I wasn't sure
The first
about that.
3 years.
First 3 years.
Yeah, so basically almost 1 million of it is just the ongoing licensing fee of it.
Okay.
So hopefully by sometime in May, we'll have a committee of the whole, once they get negotiations done and get everything all figured out, and they'll lay it all out to us. And I'm assuming you'll also be providing what modules the county will be going with. And from our understanding is that financial will be the primary one, but there's a lot of other modules that could be tied in. So they'll be going over all that with us once the negotiation is complete. Office 365 status update. Things went well. They ended up having kind of a emergency shutting everybody out of the system to introduce the MFA multi-factor authentication. I sent an email to Jesus that they did a pretty good job. I had no problems with it at all once I got my authentication done. Signed up and was able to log back in right away. So being out for 4 days, I thought was very efficient that they were able to get it done that quickly. So very impressive. Hats off to the IT department. And it doesn't sound like we had very many issues at all with anybody other than those that didn't read their emails and followed through to get their signed up.
Given the large number of users we have, to have the handful of exceptions that needed to be, I was amazed. And kudos, as you said, to the IT group. This is a big move, and
and it was kind of
challenging for end users. I understand there was some hardship there, but I think it was executed as quickly and as smoothly as possible given the circumstances.
I didn't think it was that inconvenient at all.
No.
You know, for the short time frame, and improve the safety or the security of the county system.
And they're working feverishly to get the cell phone aspect of it working.
They are.
Oh, you can't use your cell phone yet? That's all right. That's all
Well,
right.
you can't get your email on your cell phone. You can do it through the roundabout way, but you can't get it directly into your cell phone app.
Right.
Mail
Currently, we have AirWatch that the county has used that provides instant notification. So if you get an email, it instantly populates it to the email service on your phone. That currently is still being worked out to transition that to Intune, which is the Microsoft component. So,
Yeah, that's a low priority.
so you are able to get it if you use the web version of your email client on your phone, but that is a little different user experience than what folks are used to. So it is easier or more difficult depending on the user and what they have been using and are used to seeing. So.
So it goes back to, well, that's the way we always done it instead of.
Well, it's
Looking
not
at
closely, you gotta be close to user friendly. It's functional
What are
to,
you talking about? It's Microsoft. Of course it's got to be user friendly. I don't, Microsoft will never do anything
it wasn't
that's not.
designed for phones, let's just say that.
So that was informational only. The IT project portfolio update, Britta Holland presented the 2019 Q1 project portfolio recap. She also provided us with a presentation that showed a couple projects that were done, so successes, and those are included in your packet also. Again, that was informational only. The last discussion was regarding OpenGov, which we've been using for a couple of years, 3 years, I believe. And we have the option for years 4 and 5 at a cost of $18,000 per year for 4 and 5. There is only about 20 to 30 users. and it was decided to not continue with OpenGov, and also for part of the negotiations with Oracle to see if they have a public-facing module option available. Since everything's going to be changing, we can always look at OpenGov back in the future if we find that it's necessary, but I think with the new ERP system, I think it'll be redundant. So at this point, it was decided not to continue with OpenGov, especially since there's only 20 to 30 users. It's just not being utilized for what when you figure it out for what we're paying for those 20 or 30 people, it's pretty expensive.
On a per login basis, it was just not justifiable. Yep.
With that, I'll make a motion to approve those minutes and the recommendations.
Got a motion by Commissioner Dahlheiden?
I'll second.
Second by Commissioner Hewsome. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. IT minutes for March 27th are approved. We've already accomplished item B. We'll go to items for consideration. C, reschedule CIP for April 10th. That's committee day. And
Correct.
It says that's a reschedule?
Yes, Mr. Chair, previously we had scheduled a CIP finance meeting for that morning of the committee day. We'd like to move that back to the next committee day, which would be on the 24th. So just move it back a committee day. We'd originally planned it to be the 10th, but there's some conflicts. It would also give more time for the board to review the policies on finance procurement as well. So
what time on?
9 o'clock on the 24th. We'll maybe just schedule it as the first committee that day.
So I am gone on the 24th if somebody wants to cover for me on the CIP ones, but
Mr. Chair.
Whoever's the alternate.
Lee, Mr. Kelly?
Yes.
Is this just for the committee, or it's not committee of the whole, correct?
This was just the committee.
And I'm just, because you're looking to adopt the whole 69-page document on the 24th.
Prefer to, yes.
Will not adopt.
Well,
send recommendations.
Send them, yeah, but I mean,
everybody's going to have an opportunity to look at those.
Yeah,
before.
I'm just curious if you didn't want to break it down into pieces. You wanted to go through the whole thing at one crack.
We were hoping that there'd be enough time where folks could come to that committee with recommendations for changes.
Okay.
And discuss them at that committee or send further staff action out of that committee to revise.
So long as you send it and give us some time and not the day before.
Fair enough.
I would assume we would be able to do that, and Derek, you could provide us with any comments you have.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep, and I had the preliminary one, but I know there's some things that were still being vetted out from the preliminary one I got 2 weeks ago, and that's the reason I was just trying to find out, just because that's a tough nut to crack to try and in a committee meeting accomplish a 69-page document and try and even amongst those two of them adopt it all at once. I just want to make sure that everybody's clear on what we're adopting as far as a budgeting policy.
So, Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to reschedule the Finance CIP meeting to April 24th at 9 a.m.
Second.
And who wants to fill on my spot? It's Mark's.
Whoever is the alternate.
I don't think we have an alternate on it.
I
We
think you
must
do.
have an alternate, don't we?
Well, I guess we also can see what else is going on that day. You know, if there's another committee. Well, IT will be meeting that day, right? The last. So
Yep.
you'll miss that day too.
Yep.
So we'll have a CIP meeting and a technology meeting and whatever else comes up between now and then.
Right.
So I would think whoever's available.
We'll figure it out.
Yep. Sounds good. All right. Schedule.
Should we decide on that?
We have to make a motion a second on that.
Okay. We have a motion, but not a second, or at least I missed the second.
Yes, you got a second.
Okay,
Okay,
yeah.
second.
I'll
You
second.
Yep.
It's right here.
Motion by Commissioner Dahlheiden, second by Commissioner Potter.
No, the other way around.
Other way around, vice versa. All right. Any other further discussion?
Who's on first?
Who's on second?
No, who's on first? What's on second?
What's on second? Yes. All right, Charlie, Commissioner Burrell, you have a comment?
No, I was just saying we should probably decide. We can vote on this and then decide who's going to go.
Great.
All right.
We got time.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. All right, CIP committee is rescheduled for April 24th.
And Lee, what else is scheduled? IT, CIP now, What else?
There's no personnel items that I'm aware of at this time. Something could be referred on the 16th board meeting.
I could come in though, I would like especially to kind of catch up with the IT a little bit, being as I used to be on that committee until Derek bumped me off.
All right. See,
It was a conspiracy, Charlie. Just don't blame Derek.
I think you should
I went
file
along
an
with
age
it.
discrimination suit there.
So, is that all right?
so yep, you're good. So you're going to cover the whole morning then. CIP all the way to IT. Thank you, Commissioner Burrell.
Okay, 9 o'clock, committee.
I don't have a problem with that.
All right. Item D, schedule a committee of the whole capital improvement plan.
Yes, Mr. Chair, I can speak to that one briefly. As you recall, we have set the public hearing for the capital improvement plan on the 16th already. I thought it might be good to touch base with the board the week before on kind of this process and how it moves forward relative to the funding of the two projects that are laid out before us and the steps that would have to be taken regardless of the timing, doing them now or later into the future. We looked at possibility of doing that on Monday the 8th prior to HHS. However, I do understand there are some conflicts that may have arisen on that date. So kind of throwing out for discussion, it'd be nice to get it done that week of the 8th if possible.
Is there a reason why it couldn't be done on the 9th after the board meeting? If everybody's got something going
There's
on?
no board.
It's a
meeting.
workshop.
On the 9th? It's a
We have workshop.
Okay, that's
We have
workshop, okay.
workshop, but
Yeah,
And I won't be around, but you you don't need me there for this, I don't think.
I think I want to have I want to work to try and get all 5 commissioners present for this one because I think it's important.
well,
So
I mean, if we could also do it on the 15th, it would only give us the day before, but at least we'd have, or would we need minutes before that?
no, there wouldn't be any recommendations
It
per
was just
se.
okay.
It's kind of more about talking over methodology of what needs to take place in terms of the time schedule. It's kind of giving everybody some good information going into the public hearing. So if the people have questions, everybody's kind of up to speed on what the process is. So we could do it as far as late as the 15th.
Mark,
or
are
the
you going to be
12th.
gone the whole, or when are you going to be gone, Mark?
I get back on the evening of the 9th.
Okay.
So
Could we see if we can
Could do
find
it.
another day other than the 15th?
Well, how about the 10th in the afternoon after the ditch meeting?
That would work.
we could do that.
Or what committee meetings do we have on the 10th?
Right now, there's planned to be a personnel committee. I'm going off the top of my head here, I apologize. I know there will be a personnel item, I believe only one.
So we could meet
Well,
at,
we
we
could
could
do it.
meet at 10:30
We
then.
could meet
and
at
just do it
10:30.
10:30 on the 10th.
I have one watershed, one plan in Litchfield at 10:30.
Oh, that's right, that's why we had to do the ditch meeting in the afternoon.
Afternoon, okay.
But we could do it after the ditch meeting.
After that, the only
That could
possible
work.
way.
Unless you guys want to do it 8 a.m. on the, or 9 a.m. or 8:30 a.m. on the 10th.
Monday, that Wednesday, the 10th, I have the Crow at 9 too, so.
Okay, so you're,
I don't know that 10th would work for some key staff as well, so.
Okay.
do you want to look at Friday the 12th?
Morning, we've got 55 Coalition.
But we could do, you know,
The 12th is
later.
wide open for me, so I can make
Yeah.
anything work.
Me too.
What time is 55 done?
9:30.
Well, it's probably closer, it starts at 9, so it'll probably be 10:30 before we.
So we can meet at 11.
You want to
Back
do it
here.
at noon or?
11?
1 or?
Could do 11.
11?
11?
Okay.
That work? Coordinator?
Works for me.
It shouldn't be more than an hour,
Better.
right, Mike? It starts at 9:30, I think.
Friday, April 12th at 11 a.m.
Mr. Chair, I'll make that motion to set the committee of the whole CIP timeline meeting for April 12th at 11 o'clock a.m.
Perfect.
I'll second it.
We have a motion by Commissioner Burrell, a second by Commissioner Dahleden. Any other further discussion?
We'll reach out to bond counsel and see if we can arrange that time to work with them, so.
Okay, good.
Clean all this up. All right. So we had a motion, a second. Any other further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Committee of the Whole is scheduled for April 11th. All right, item E, approve reimbursement resolution for Tactical Training Center and Government Center. You see the resolution that was in the back of the packet today. Basically letting you know that we have incurred expenses over the period of time on these proposed projects, and the intent is that we intend to reimburse ourselves for these expenses with potential bond proceeds going forward. This is a resolution that's part of the process that needs to take place. Did I capture that correctly, Administrator?
You did correct. This is driven, there are some time limitations if we were to incur expenses. We kind of have to, as I see it, put the stake in the ground at some point, and any point there forward, whether it's a month or two or several years later, we have to have said this set up that we will be reimbursing ourselves via bonding. So it's kind of driving a starting stake to open that period of what would be eligible under IRS rules for us to reimburse ourselves.
And Mr. Chair, Mr. Kelly, because we have incurred expenses with design and that kind of thing, that we'd include that to repay ourselves.
Correct, right.
Otherwise, we'd be forced to have to pay with it with cash, and we couldn't use bond proceeds
Right, yeah.
included in part of the bonding.
Mr. Chair,
So this does give you some options.
I'll
One way of thinking.
make a motion to pass the resolution to approve reimbursement resolution for the Tactical Training Center and new Government Center.
All right, we have a motion by Commissioner Hewsome,
Second.
second by Commissioner Potter. Any further discussion regarding this item?
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Since the county proposed to undertake the Tactical Training Center and New Government Center in 2019, the projects, we've never had a formal vote saying that we're proceeding with it.
No, that would be the next step. You basically still do this. It wouldn't even matter. This resolution basically would mean nothing if we didn't end up bonding anyways. This is just stating that if we would bond at some point to actually do this project, that we would use those bond proceeds to cover these expenses. So if we do not choose to bond and not do these projects, we will be using levied funds that are currently in cash. It's in the general fund to make these expenses then, because by default, we would have to cover them that way. So this is just kind of one of those getting our ducks in a row going forward, one way or the other, giving us more options.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
I guess I would have concern too, I mean, because then it would, if I vote no later, which I plan to do, then, well, why did you vote to approve the bond thing then too, so, anyway, I would not, it gets to that point, so somewhere, because I mean, I've voted to go ahead and do this, some of the groundwork to see what the building's gonna look like, whatever, and the costs too and stuff, so now I'm at a point where I'm not in favor of the new government center, so it gets to be a point where I have to start saying no to that.
What I would say, I would suggest if Commissioner Dahliden or Commissioner Burrell have some questions, maybe that we table this decision and discuss it at the committee of the whole on the 12th, so we can come back to move forward with it, just so you guys have an understanding of what this is. This isn't the declaration that we're building a building.
No, and Mr. Chair, the only thing, if you say you want me to vote for it, knowing that I'm not voting for the building later and there's an understanding, I just don't want you to come back saying, well, why did you vote for the bonding now that you're not gonna, you're like pulling the rug out from under us. I don't want to be in that position.
No, this is
I know what this is.
more of a housekeeping.
Right, it's a deal to where if you do it, then we can bring the bond back and recoup these costs.
Right, because, I mean, Mr. Chair, Commissioner Burrell, we don't know what until we have all the information, we can't take a vote on if we're going to, depends on what the bids come in at.
Yep.
It depends on what the bond comes in at. I mean, that's where I'm at. I mean, I need to get all the information so I can make the best decision for the taxpayers in the county.
So to be clear then, Mr. Chair and Administrator, this is not a vote to approve the purchase of bonds and to go out on the
This is
market.
not,
Correct.
this is not.
It just locks in on that
Yep.
date.
This basically just
I'll-
allows us to use
I
bond
will-
proceeds to reimburse the architectural and design costs.
I'll support it just with that understanding.
Okay. All right.
All right.
Um,
Then.
Commissioner Dolan, do you have any questions? Are you understanding what we're doing here?
No, I was just curious,
Yep.
since, we keep talking about it, but we've never made a formal.
We have not.
Yeah, and that's where we were, right now, we
just kinda
can't have a,
curious.
make a formal decision really onto it till actually we have the public hearing, and that's where that public hearing is set for April 16th, and that way, at that point, the vetting process will take place then.
And if the building bond, we did not go ahead with the building, this would be a mute.
This would be a mute, it
Correct.
would mean nothing.
Okay.
Yes, this kind of, Mr. Chair, is being discussed. There are a few more decision points that have to be made. You said you have to have the public hearing with CIP. If you proceeded forward, there's still you would have to accept the final plans, the bid documents. You'd have to make the decision to send those out for bids. Then you would have to accept the bids and award the bids. So there's still several decision points that I would view as deciding to build the building, if you want to generalize it to that point. The challenge is for staff, there's certain periods of time where things need to be done. The bonding process takes several months in order from start to finish, so if we were to proceed, based on those other decisions that I had outlined, if those all were to proceed, we needed to start the financial end of it already. Similarly, some of the other approvals, the zoning and these things with City of Buffalo. If we decide not to do it, that's fine, but if we decide we are doing that, those things already needed to be done. So staff have been moving forward based on the decision that was made to continue through design development into construction documents. So that's, as staff, what we're working on. Just
Well, the
so
other
to
thing
be
is
clear.
too, is that with the tactical center, we agreed with the FBI to accept those funds, and we have to have something moving by a certain time frame, right?
By July.
Correct. Through the agreement that was signed with them, we have to have contracts engaged by July, or in July, early July. So you're right, there's some timing there that we have to be cognizant of. So again, we need to start some of the mechanics on the back end at the staff level.
And then Lee, I asked about this, I think at another meeting too, but, because, can we split this at, I don't know, see, I'm supportive of the tactical building with the backup, things for our IT and the nuclear and all that, but not this.
And that's where that's where I set the April 12th committee of the whole, because I
Yeah.
figured there was going to be some deeper discussions in terms of opinions and how this plays out. So
Okay,
we'll discuss that on the April 12th.
all right, I'm okay with this then.
Any other further discussions then? So we have a motion, we have a second. Hearing no other discussions, all in favor say aye. Oh, it's the resolution, isn't it? I'm sorry, it's the resolution, so, all right. Commissioner Hewson?
Aye.
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 All right, resolution passes. All right, advisory updates. Anybody want to go first?
I could start, Mr. Chair.
Sure.
First of all, met with the Fair Board last night. And this was a question that was brought up, and I don't remember, we talked about our mileage reimbursement. Did we agree to just go with the federal?
IRS
mileage?
rate, correct.
IRS.
Correct,
Which is
yes.
58 cents a mile right now.
Whatever that is.
I thought we did that, and I could not be certain, so I'll make sure I clarify that. That was one of the things. And I talked to him also, that I mentioned, followed up with the Parks Department and the Highway as far as equipment that might possibly trade in. And I said that, and I hope this is all right with the board, but I said maybe we'll pick a day and Dennis and somebody else, maybe we'll go out and kind of do a little walkthrough and say, when you get rid of that, would be interested or whatever, so.
Doesn't hurt.
Because, a lot of times, a trade-in thing, you're not getting very much money for it anyway, and if the Fair Board can make use out of it, because they use something very little, up there, so.
Regarding the skid steer is what you're talking about?
Yeah, that would be one thing for
Are
sure.
they bringing it before the board?
as far as,
They were looking at donating the sheriff's department?
yeah, and then.
Or the
right.
highway department was?
They have done that apparently in the past, and then, and we did talk about it, so well then, let's say the Parks Department is getting a new skid loader, and
The Parks Department doesn't purchase their skid loaders anymore. They lease them out on a 2-year time frame. So
well, whatever, if it, just say a piece of equipment anyway, then they would probably want to get compensated somehow in their budget if they forego the, let's say, a $5,000 trade-in or whatever, so.
yeah, so it would be part of budget negotiation.
Yeah.
Yeah, and apparently
Because
that's,
nothing would happen until that point.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure that they weren't just.
Yeah, no,
unilateral
because
transfer,
when they, when the highway department asks for equipment, they always have it X number for trade-in and all that sort of
Yep.
stuff. So it would be part of those
It's just-
budget.
That's what I thought. I just wanted to make sure, because I was like, oh, no, wait, they wouldn't just be, be shorted in their
Yeah,
budget,
no.
but yeah.
but apparently, I mean, they have a lot more, I mean, those guys have been there for 30-some years or whatever, and we've been here 6, whatever, but they said it, the fair board, or the county board has done that for them before to got them some equipment.
Well, just because we've always done it that
Oh,
way, doesn't mean we have to continue.
I got it, but I don't think it's a bad thing.
Well, it doesn't hurt to explore
No,
the possibility.
absolutely
It's
not.
not hurting anything to at least look, and if it's a piece of equipment that we're trading in, we're only gonna get X for it. And
No.
the fair board can use it on their,
No, I agree.
at least
I
it
agree.
warrants a look.
Absolutely.
And then the other
A lot
thing,
more efficient.
the other thing at the fair board, they are gonna need quite a bit of gravel, and what we have done in the past, I did not catch Virgil today, but we have done the hauling for free, they pay for the gravel, and as long as, and what Virgil has said before, if I don't want to speak for him, but as long as they can work it into their schedule, they might haul 4 loads this day, a couple loads that day, whenever they're in the area or whatever, and have a spare truck, so I'll have to talk to Virgil, or Dennis can give him a call. That's pretty much it on the fair board. Oh, and then your ads, if anybody were to get an ad in, try to get with Dennis right away as far as in the fair book. So they run about $80 for a quarter page, something like that, so. Okay, the other thing that I had though, we did have a special meeting of the Crow last week. The overwhelming consensus, I don't think there was any dissension that we are probably looking at disbanding.
They're not?
To disband,
Disbanding?
yeah, to just close.
They are going to disband?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I just want to make sure I understood that right.
Yeah, and the reason, I mean, we looked at what the Crow is doing, what it was, mission was, and so much of it is going to be taken over by the One Watershed, One Plan, that it would be redundant for sure, and it would be a waste of resources. The reason and it would have been even had we not had the changeover in leadership out at the Crow right now, but I wanted, what we thought to keep the Crow around is if the South Fork, when they do their One Watershed, One Plan, we could have, if the Crow was to stay around, they could do kind of the center point for both watersheds and provide some economies of scale. But losing Diane, because I think I mentioned she has some issues or trying to take care of her mom and different stuff, and she's just getting pulled every direction. You can just see the stress that's on her. But so she is going to be quitting, but and she did offer to stay on kind of as a part-time thing to see the thing through. So, and but anyway, yeah, just a heads up that's where we're heading. So,
All right. Commissioner Newsom?
I went to the Central Minnesota EMS meeting last Friday and got elected vice chair for the year. So anyway, there's not too much that I have to do unless the chair doesn't show up. So just a little history. In 2001, we started with 14 counties for the Central Minnesota region, and we now have 11 members. We Sherburne County withdrew from our region and went to the metro region, so that was a little change. And that kind of brought up that we need to look at our joint powers agreement and withdrawing members, because in the agreement it was that we needed to provide 60 days ahead of time. well, because we meet essentially 4 times a year, you might not even have a meeting from the time you get noticed, and that would involve an emergency meeting. So the motion basically was to make that be a year notice, and it could be certainly negotiated to 6 months or whatever if a county wanted to withdraw from joint powers agreement.
Regarding that, what did Sherburne County state a reason why they?
I think they just felt that they were more aligned with the metro county, so. And I guess, you know, you could look at us and say, you know, we could be aligned, but really, we're still so largely rural, and our 17 departments, our fire departments are so kind of largely made up of rural departments. So I feel that we're a good fit with the Central Minnesota at this point, but.
I'm just curious on
Yeah.
why Sherburne.
They pulled out of the Emergency Services Board too, so.
Okay.
I just find it interesting since part of Sherburne is up by St. Cloud.
Well, right, and certainly a lot of rural.
Which is farther away than we are, so that's why I'm just
Yeah.
curious.
So that was, yeah. Kind of sorry to see them go, but, and there are we're still looking for more stable funding formulas. Actually, from the general fund in 2003, the region received about $80,000 from the general fund to support these departments. And in 2017, we got 73. So the funding is going down. Of course, the seatbelt dollars have gone down. We've cut way back, so we don't have an administrative assistant funding for that. So Marion, who is the director, does a lot. So she's really busy about everything. And the critical incident management team, they got called out for 30 incidents in 2018, and one of them was in Wright County. So that's something that a particularly bad scene that they need help dealing with. So it's been a very effective team. They're volunteers, but they do get reimbursed for their mileage. So anyway, still hoping to get some funding, some stable funding, so we can continue to give grants to our fire departments and these small departments that don't have a lot of money for training and equipment. But that's it, Mr. Chair.
I had a light week last week as far as advisory committees, so I was able to get myself caught up on stuff, but otherwise I have nothing to report. But on another note, did we change the time of our workshop next week? To what?
Yes, I was going to mention that.
So I was just finding out because leadership's at 10:30.
Correct. We have the quarterly leadership at 10:30. We had planned the workshop to start at 9. You have several items on the workshop agenda. Based on previous discussions, we may then come back to the workshop if it runs into the 10:30 time and pick up any remaining items that we would have left. So.
Okay, I was wondering how that was going to play out because just take a break.
Glad you called
and
it
then we'll
out.
come back. Yep.
I was going to go there if you did.
Thanks.
So. Yeah.
All right, I'm good. Commissioner Dahlin?
Well, I feel bad. I'm going to miss that next week. I feel bad that I couldn't get out of more stuff next week.
You tried hard.
Yeah.
Crying on the inside, right?
Yep. Last week on Friday, I had the pleasure of going down to Glencoe to meet with a number of other counties for the joint ditch. And it was an easy meeting. The biggest discussion was updating the joint powers agreement. And Rinky Noonan is working on updating the joint powers agreement because it's really outdated, along with some of the numbers that are in there. So they're going to be updating that, and the discussion was that it will go to all the county boards before the joint group meets next year. And then as part of joint ditch 11, I think it was, we had a meeting afterwards with just McLeod County, I believe is the one that we did with joint ditch 11, and approved redetermination of benefits for that one. Matt was aware of that.
Moving forward.
Other than that, yeah, I see you've got your notices of tax amounts. Mine came in yesterday too. And my house sure went up quite a bit. We gotta quit letting those people build those expensive homes in our area there. Oh.
Right.
Values have gone up a lot.
How much did your value?
Mine went up 11,000.
Your value or?
My value of the home.
Oh, mine went up more than that, so.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah, mine went up 10 something, but my value went up 5.4%, I think. Proposed taxes went up 5.2%.
Well, they don't have proposed taxes on there, do they?
No, just values for next, because you always collect taxes
Proposed,
1
right.
year in arrears on your values are.
Yeah.
You're done.
No, yeah.
Okay.
Sorry.
No, that's fine.
That's proposed.
Proposed. I just, like I say, the reason I brought these out today is to remind people, because every year at Truth in Taxation, we have no less than a dozen people that always cry about their values. The spring is when you want to do that. These are the notices that come out this time of year. And if you have any questions or challenges or whatever, there's a phone number there. Make an appointment, talk to the assessor, come to the realization what it is about, what's the factors that's causing this. I mean, last year, at that time, my 90-year-old mother-in-law went through the process and understood it. So it's not that hard to understand. God rest her soul now, but they went out and they explained the whole process and the situation how it went. And 90 years old, she understood it. I mean, and to me, that's it. Values did go up quite a bit. The commercial went up like anywhere from 1 to 4%-ish there. Industrial went up a little higher. Houses went anywhere from, say, 0.5% in some areas up to 12 or so percent. Again, supply, demand, and what's out there is market comparables. Just to let you know, my house went up by $19,000.
Wow.
Okay. But then with the recession, when it hit, they had the value go way far below what the thing was. And now it's just coming back. It's still, mine is still below. If I put it on the market for what they have now, I'd be packing my bags really quick because it'd be gone. Because any house, unfortunately, any house under $300,000 in this county is gone. Just gone, because there's just supply and demand.
There's not enough homes for the
Correct.
demand. Yep.
I mean, and starter houses begin at 400 grand. I don't know about you, but I didn't start in that kind of neighborhood. Maybe
No.
Commissioner Burrell did, but I didn't.
We started at 18.5 for our first
Right.
home.
You know,
You gotta marry right.
So that moat that you put around your house, that didn't have any effect on your taxes?
with the armed guards and everything else, yeah. Oh, but the thing is, and the state makes them 90 to 105% of value, so they have a master like we have masters that tell us what to do, and you have to follow that. And the key is to try to be 95% of true market value. And with the market changes really quickly on these things, it's one of those things people need to pay attention. So, because it'll show you what your value is this year and what the proposed value for next year. Call, make the appointment, talk to them. You know, this way then you can understand how the process works. You might not agree with it. You can also challenge it, because they had some houses that went up by over $30,000, and it's talk to them, call them, make an appointment. You know, because in some cases maybe they assumed something that wasn't there, or maybe they missed something. But be careful when you do this, because I know one person in Albertville that kicked and screamed about when I was mayor, kicked and screamed about his value, and he was an assessor in another town, only to find out that he had a finished basement that he never got a permit for, had an addition on his house he never got a permit for, and the value went north of what they had there. So be careful what you wish for, you may get it.
And the other thing is, if you look back historically at what your value was, the value of our home in 2008 was higher, then it dropped, and it finally came up last year to be the same value as it had been 10 years before. So The values are climbing up again, actually to what they were. Yep.
And they made a comeback, and the thing boils down to is you want everybody to be valued fairly, so everybody just pays their fair share, because you don't want somebody's undervalued by $50,000 or $80,000, and yours up there, and you're paying more, and they're paying less than their fair share. I mean, it's not a perfect system by any stretch, but it's a system via the state we have to live within. And it's pretty complicated, and I'd say I'd applaud to the assessor's office for the work they do and how close they are, and we don't get the notices from the state that you're out of compliance, and we just don't want to be there either.
No.
That's all I have.
That's all you have. Administrator Kelly?
Just a few quick items. We had a good meeting, myself and Super Jean, with Marco, talking about our printers and costs of service of those things, as well as with the Justice Center, and kind of found some ways we can streamline and probably save the county a little cost. So that was a nice joint venture.
Did you say by going to a different company?
No.
You could say.
We've just had, we started some discussions about all the different contracts we have out there and some different rates, and we're able to find some efficiencies by looking at it again, so we'll be meeting again on that one. Relative to our building projects, the Buffalo Planning Commission will be reviewing our plans for out on the Government Center site proposed on the evening of Monday, the 8th, 7 p.m., so they can review. If there's any feedback that needs to be given to BKV, that will be done at that meeting as well. Trying to think other things. It's been a very busy week between the things and the technology improvements that have been rolled out and a few other personnel items, but nothing else to report to the board at this time.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
How many, did we end up extending our IT director position out for a couple more weeks?
They've moved out the first review. I don't recall the date off the top of my head. Initially, the first review was to be on the 5th of April. They were going to reach out to some additional, try and expand the candidate pool even more, weed through, so I'm hoping to get an update yet, probably tomorrow, touching again, see where we're at, so.
Okay, and then I did read in the minutes something about, in the owners committee, for out at the Justice Center, possible future government center, about trying to figure out how we're going to do the contract out there for getting everything elevated properly one time instead of multiple contracts and stuff.
Correct.
We've been able to figure out how we're going to do that yet?
Starting working through the process and working with legal. It's, you know, because of the scope, we don't feel it can be accomplished with a change order. This is again one of those challenges that we have the 2019 warm season to address that.
Yep.
So we're under the understanding to move forward with the design changes, if you will, as if we were to be building Government Center out there and set the parking lot up that way. So you wouldn't have all that rework if you were to change it, because it has, what has been drawn recently is much different than what was drawn at the time the Justice Center was planned.
Well, I would, you know, we know that it's not if, it's when. I mean, I don't know why we just can't do it, but is there quite a bit of difference to do the whole property out there? That are we stuck having to bid it? Is it because it meets a certain threshold, or can we?
Yeah, I haven't been as close to the discussion. If Brian wants to chime in, and Alan, I know have been the keys in the discussion. So,
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Delighton, I think was it probably Pete Filippi was the one who kind of addressed this during that meeting, and so I met with Pete and with Alan. Took about a week to try and digest some the original contract for the Justice Center, state statutes, even looked for case law, which there really isn't any, but trying to determine, you know, I think I was given a figure of about $300,000 additional site work, or it may have been larger than that. But question is, you know, we have a contract built on certain specifications. is this really a change order, or is this a new project? Is it additional work? Those types of questions were rumbling around in my mind. And my advice to Pete and Alan in the end was that I think there's a provision in the contract that says that if we cut off the contractor, the earthwork contractor, from doing some work and basically terminate, say, okay, this is all the further we're going to let you go, they have a right to claim certain lost profits, if you will. That being said, it doesn't make a lot of sense to just cut them off at a point where our losses or the amounts we might have to pay them are too great. So we're trying to find kind of a happy medium, if you will, and see if there's some work we can have them do which will tie in nicely with the work for the government center if it's built. But I'm recommending that a lot of that work should be bid out to meet the spirit of the competitive bidding law because of the dollar figures they've kind of thrown at me. So it's kind of new territory. I've not dealt with that question in 25 years here. So that's just where I came in, and I think we'd be pushing the limits of the law if we just tried to add on all the work as a change order to this contract.
But we could do a change order so that the Justice Center landscaping would tie into the future. But we could do a change order in that respect, couldn't we?
That's what I'm suggesting, yeah, and I think that's the detail that they're working through at this point, so.
Good. Yeah, I'd hate us to lose money, you know, and if we, it would be nice, as long as they're out there, to be able to expand the contract. And I suppose it would be good to kind of bid that out while they're still out there so that we can
leverage that
Right.
competitiveness.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I mean, again, we know that it's not if, it's when. So I don't know why we couldn't just get it all done so it's all landscaped the way we need it to be for the time, for the future.
It would be the most cost-effective thing we can do.
I mean, it's sandy soil out there, so it's not like there's going to be anything that's going to super grow anyways. You know, it's good base for no matter what you do.
Thank you, Brian.
Thanks, Brian.
Is there any other business for today? Yeah. Hearing none, I guess we will adjourn at 10:32 today.